The Earth, 4 million years ago. A world that is at once familiar and yet terrifyingly alien. This is the African savanna, the cradle of humanity. But it is not the serene landscape of modern wildlife films. It is a battlefield, an arena forged in tooth and claw, where the sun rises not on a kingdom of peace but on a relentless, brutal struggle for survival. The air is thick with the scent of dust, wild grasses, the sweet perfume of acacia blossoms, and the ever-present metallic odor of fear. For on this stage, a new and vulnerable creature is taking its first hesitant steps into history. It stands barely a meter tall, its skin exposed to the relentless sun. It has no armor, no venom, no razor-sharp claws. Its teeth are dull, made for grinding plants, not for tearing flesh. It walks upright on two legs, an evolutionary gamble that offers a better view of the horizon, but makes it a slow and clumsy runner compared to the four-legged hunters that patrol this land. This creature is our ancestor, an Australopithecus, a distant forerunner on the long, winding path to becoming human, and in this age of monsters, it is prey. To understand who we are today, we must travel back to this epoch of terror. We must stand beside these fragile beings and look out at the world through their eyes. A world ruled by giants, a world where every rustle in the grass, every shadow cast by a passing cloud, could signal an agonizing end. This is not just a story of survival. It is the story of how the weakest creature on the savanna began a journey to inherit the earth. It is the story of how the hunted, armed with nothing but a glimmer of intelligence and the strength of community, learned to outwit the predator, to master the flame, and ultimately to become the most formidable force the planet has ever known. This is the saga of our beginning, written in the shadow of giants. Our story begins in East Africa's Great Rift Valley, a dynamic scar on the face of the continent where tectonic forces were literally shaping the future. The global climate was cooling and drying. The vast, dense forests that had cradled our primate ancestors for millions of years were retreating, giving way to an endless ocean of grass interspersed with pockets of woodland. This was the savanna, and its arrival presented our lineage with a stark choice: adapt or perish. The ancestors of chimpanzees remained in the dwindling forests. Our ancestors stepped out into the open. The most famous of these pioneers is Australopithecus afarensis, immortalized by the discovery of a female skeleton nicknamed Lucy. Dated to about 3.2 million years ago, Lucy's anatomy tells a crucial story. Her pelvis and leg bones are unmistakably adapted for bipedalism, walking upright. This was a monumental leap. Standing tall allowed these hominins to see over the grass, to spot approaching predators or distant resources, like a fruiting fig tree or circling vultures indicating a fresh kill. Crucially, it freed the hands. For the first time, hands were not just for locomotion. They were for carrying food, for holding infants, for digging up roots, and for gesturing. And in time, they would become the instruments of a revolution, the creation of tools. But this new posture came at a terrible cost. Lucy and her kin were not fast. Their gait was likely less efficient than ours, a slightly swaying motion, as they shifted weight from one foot to the other. In the open savanna, where speed was life, they were at a severe disadvantage. The tall grass that hid them could also hide what was stalking them. They were exposed day and night. Their small stature and lack of natural weaponry placed them squarely on the menu for a cast of predators more fearsome than anything alive today. The world they inhabited was a predator's paradise, sustained by enormous herds of three-toed horses, giant buffalo, and ancient giraffes. And where there is abundant prey, there are always abundant predators. Imagine a lion, but bigger, more powerfully built, with two enormous blade-like canine teeth curving down from its upper jaw. This was Dinophilis, the terrible cat. Paleontologists believed Dinophilis was an ambush predator, its slightly shorter limbs suggesting it wasn't a pursuit hunter, but a creature of stealth and overwhelming power. It likely lurked in the dense thickets along riverbeds or among rocky outcrops, the very places our ancestors might seek shelter or water. The chilling evidence from Swartkrans Cave in South Africa, where fossilized hominin skulls bear puncture marks that are a perfect match for Dinophilis's fangs, paints a horrifying picture of these cats systematically hunting our kin, dragging them back to their lairs. And they were not alone. The Pliocene and Pleistocene epochs were the golden age of the machairodonts, the saber-toothed cats. Species like Meganterion, with its knife-like canines, were specialists in bringing down large prey. While a hominin was a small meal, it was an easy one. A moment's inattention, straying too far from the group, could be a fatal error. Later came the famous Smilodon, whose fangs were so long they extended past its own chin. These were precision weapons designed to sever the windpipe and arteries of massive herbivores with a single devastating bite. The very presence of these cats would have instilled a deep primal terror, turning every patch of tall grass into a potential death trap. But the danger was not confined to felines. The giant short-faced bear, Agriotherium africanum, was one of the largest terrestrial carnivores of its time. An enormous omnivore, it was a direct and fearsome competitor, capable of chasing other predators off their kills and powerful enough to simply take what it wanted. A chance encounter with this behemoth in a narrow valley would have been utterly unsurvivable. The night offered no refuge, for it belonged to another giant, Pachyrhocutta brevirostris, the giant short-faced hyena. Standing nearly a meter tall at the shoulder and weighing over 100 kilograms, this creature was the size of a modern lioness and possessed the most powerful jaws of almost any mammal that has ever lived. While modern hyenas can crack bone, Pachyrhocutta could pulverize the largest femurs of elephants into splinters to get at the marrow. Their fossilized latrines, containing accumulations of bones from every creature on the savanna, including our ancestors, serve as a stark reminder of their terrifying efficiency. They were relentless scavengers and formidable pack hunters. A small group of hominins huddled together for warmth in the dark, without fire or walls, would have been no match for a clan of these bone-crushing nightmares. For our ancestors, sleep could not have been a state of peace, but a period of heightened, fearful listening for the cackling calls that signaled the approach of the night's most fearsome cleanup crew. The threats were not just terrestrial. In the rivers and lakes lurked gigantic crocodiles, like Crocodilus thorbjarnarssoni, which could grow to over 7.5 meters long, waiting to ambush any creature that came to drink. From the skies, giant birds of prey, eagles with talons capable of snatching small antelope, would have viewed a young hominin child playing at the edge of the group as a potential target. Danger was everywhere. It was three-dimensional. It was relentless. To survive in this world was to live in a state of constant, unrelenting vigilance. How, then, did we endure? Faced with such overwhelming odds, what hope did this small, upright ape have? The answer did not lie in brawn, but in a nascent power stirring within a rapidly evolving organ, the first flicker of the human mind. The key was the development of a remarkable feedback loop. As our ancestors were forced into the open savanna, their diet began to change, incorporating more scavenged meat, a source of calories and protein far denser than plants. This high-energy food fueled the growth of the most energy-intensive organ in the body, the brain. A bigger brain, in turn, allowed for more complex problem-solving, better social organization, and the development of the very first technologies. More intelligence led to better food, which led to a bigger brain. This was the engine of human evolution, firing on all cylinders under the immense pressure of predation. Around 2.6 million years ago, this process yielded a new player on the scene, the genus Homo. The first of our direct line, Homo habilis, or handy man. With a brain cavity significantly larger than that of the Australopithecines, Homo habilis represents the dawn of a new strategy. They began to shape their world, one rock at a time. This was the birth of technology, the Oldowan stone tool industry. These tools were deceptively simple. A river cobble, the core, struck with another rock to shear off a sharp-edged flake. There was no elegant design, just brutal functionality, but to the mind that conceived it, this was a revolutionary act. It required foresight, the ability to understand that this dull rock could become a sharp edge. It required skill to strike it at the correct angle, and it required memory and teaching to pass this knowledge on. These were not spears or arrows for hunting down large game. Their purpose was far more cunning. In a world of giant predators, there were also giant kills. The stone tool was the key to exploiting this niche. It allowed Homo habilis to perform a lightning-fast raid on a carcass. A sharp flake could slice through tough hide faster than teeth could, granting access to the meat beneath. And heavier chopper tools could do something almost no other creature could: smash open thick leg bones to access the one resource beyond the reach of the great cats, and even the bone-crushing hyenas, the rich, calorie-dense marrow inside. This was a game-changer. They were using their intellect to bypass direct competition. They were not fighting the predators for the kill. They were outsmarting them for the leftovers. But technology alone was not enough. The second pillar of survival was community. A lone hominin was a dead hominin, but in a group, their chances increased exponentially. A group meant more eyes and ears to watch for danger. The daily life of these early humans was a tapestry of cooperation. While some foraged for plants, berries, and insects, others stood guard, scanning the horizon. A specific warning cry could signal the difference between a lion in the distance and a snake in the grass. This is the root of our profound social nature. We are not built to be alone because for millions of years, loneliness meant death. Cooperation also allowed for active defense. While one hominin was no match for a saber-tooth, a group of 10, shouting, waving their arms and throwing rocks, could be a formidable and confusing force. They might not be able to kill a large predator, but they could intimidate it, pester it, and perhaps drive it away from a kill or from their camp. This behavior, known as mobbing, was a vital tool for survival. The understanding that unity provided a strength that no single individual possessed. In these first desperate acts of collective defense, the foundations of human society and teamwork were laid. They learned to care for the vulnerable, the young, the old, the injured, because every member of the group contributed to its collective knowledge and security. Then, sometime around 1.5 million years ago, our ancestors harnessed a force of nature that would irrevocably alter our destiny, a force that would change our relationship with the world and with the night forever. That force was fire. The new hominin on the scene was Homo erectus, upright man. Taller, stronger, and with a brain approaching the modern human range, Homo erectus was a new kind of ancestor. Their mastery of fire was the single greatest technological leap in the first 2 million years of our history. Initially, they might have harvested it from natural wildfires, but eventually they learned to control it, to sustain it, and perhaps even to create it. This act of capturing a piece of the sun transformed our existence. Fire was a weapon. The deep-seated fear of flames that exists in most animals could now be used to our advantage. A roaring campfire at the entrance of a cave became the ultimate shield, an impenetrable barrier of light and heat that kept the nocturnal terrors of the savannah at bay. For the first time, our ancestors had a safe space. The night, once the dominion of the predator, now had a small flickering circle of light that belonged to us. This safety had a profound psychological impact. It provided the security necessary for deeper sleep, which is critical for brain development and memory consolidation. Fire was a revolutionary tool. It provided warmth, allowing hominins to survive colder nights and to expand out of Africa into the more temperate climates of Asia and Europe. And it was a kitchen. Cooking food had profound consequences. The heat broke down tough fibers, neutralized toxins in plants, and killed parasites in meat. It made food easier to chew and digest, meaning our bodies could extract far more energy from the same amount of food. This energy surplus went straight to our most demanding organ, the brain. The advent of cooking didn't just make food safer and tastier, it unlocked the nutritional potential that fueled the final expansion of the human brain, allowing it to become the complex, powerful instrument it is today. And perhaps most importantly, fire was a social hub. The campfire became the heart of the community. It extended the usable day, providing light long after the sun had set. Around these ancient flames, in the shared safety from the encroaching darkness, is where complex social bonds were truly forged. It was a place to share food, to mend tools, and in all likelihood to communicate, to share the stories of the day's successes and failures, to plan the next day's forage, to mourn the lost and to teach the young. Here, in the dance of shadows and light, language, ritual, and culture took their first breaths. fire did more than just protect our ancestors. It began to shape their very minds and societies. It made them, in a tangible sense, more human. With larger brains, better tools, the power of community and the security of fire, the balance of power on the savannah began to shift. Our ancestors, from Homo erectus to later species like Homo heidelbergensis, were no longer just scavengers living in fear. They were becoming something else entirely. They were becoming apex predators in their own right. The evidence of this shift is found in the tools they left behind. The crude Oldowan chopper gave way to the beautifully crafted Acheulean hand axe. This teardrop-shaped tool, symmetrical and clearly designed, represents a new level of cognitive function. It was a multi-tool, the Swiss Army knife of the Pleistocene, used for butchering carcasses, digging for tubers, stripping bark, and as a formidable defensive weapon. Its creation required planning, skill, and a mental template of the desired outcome, hallmarks of a modern mind. They were now capable of hunting large game. Archaeological sites reveal accumulations of animal bones that could only have resulted from systematic, successful hunting. They developed ingenious strategies. They conducted cooperative drives, using the landscape to their advantage, stampeding herds of animals into swamps or off cliffs. They also pioneered a uniquely human hunting method, persistence hunting. Lacking the explosive speed of predators, they used their two distinct advantages: bipedal efficiency for long-distance running and the ability to cool their bodies by sweating. On a hot day, a group of hunters could track and chase an animal like a kudu for hours, relentlessly running it down under the searing African sun until the prey, unable to cool itself, collapsed from heat exhaustion. This required immense endurance, sophisticated tracking skills, and an unparalleled level of teamwork and communication. It was a hunt won, not with speed or strength, but with intellect and relentless determination. This transformation was profound. The creature that had once hidden in terror at the slightest sound was now a force to be reckoned with. The fear was still there, a healthy respect for the dangerous world they lived in, but it was now tempered with confidence, with strategy, and with the undeniable knowledge that they were no longer the weakest players in the game. They had climbed the food chain not with fang and claw but with mind, fire, and fellowship. They had begun to change from the hunted into the hunters. This epic struggle, played out over millions of years, is the crucible that forged humanity. The constant pressure of predation was a powerful evolutionary engine. It didn't just make our ancestors faster or stronger, it made them smarter. It selected for intelligence to solve problems, for cooperation to overcome brute force, for communication to coordinate action, and for innovation to create new advantages. Our large brains, our complex social structures, our capacity for language and culture, all of these defining human characteristics are, in part, a legacy of this ancient war for survival. We were profoundly shaped by the monsters we feared. Today, the giant predators of that ancient world are gone. The saber-toothed cats, the massive hyenas, and the terrible cats live on only as fossils, ghosts in stone. We, the descendants of the small, clever ape they once hunted, now dominate the planet in a way no single species ever has before. We have built cities of steel and glass, we have walked on the moon, and we have peered into the deepest secrets of the cosmos. The world that once terrified us, we have now reshaped in our own image. But the memory of that ancient time has never truly left us. It lingers in our subconscious. It is in our innate fear of the dark, in the startled response to a sudden noise from the shadows. It's in the deep comfort we find in the company of others, in the instinct to gather around a hearth, a barbecue, a campfire. The savannah is still with us, encoded in our DNA. Every time we work together to solve a problem, every time we invent a tool to overcome a challenge, every time we tell a story around a flickering light, we are channeling the same spirit that allowed our ancestors to survive in a world of giants. Their struggle is our inheritance. They gave us not a kingdom, but a set of tools, a curious mind, a cooperative spirit, and an unyielding will to endure. The world has changed, but the fundamental challenges of survival, innovation, and community remain. We are the result of an unbroken chain of ancestors who, against all odds, refused to be victims. They stared into the face of a terrifying world and did not blink. The ghosts of these ancient giants still linger. Not in the shadows of the wild, but in the very architecture of the mind that was forced to outthink them.